All right, back for another beer review, and today I'm going to be reviewing a beer from the Narragansett Brewing Company out of Pawtucket, Rhode Island, and this is their Narragansett Lager. So before we actually get into this review, I have a bit of a story time. So the reason I'm reviewing this beer is because of a great friend of mine and a fellow beer tuber, Paul over at PABrewNews. Now, he didn't send me this beer, but he inspired me to review it because a few months ago on his channel, he reviewed this beer live. And during that live review, I playfully trolled him in the comments. I was like, I can't believe you're drinking this, son. What are you doing? But in that review, he talked about how he was actually enjoying this because he was drinking at room temperature. Now, if you guys know Paul, you know he drinks most of his beers at room temperature or sometimes boiling. And that even goes for American Adjunct Lagers. He wants to see the faults and whatnot. And that's awesome. And he was saying this one had no faults. He couldn't detect any faults. And then he compared it to another beer, Yuengling Lager. And the reason he referenced that beer is because a bit over, I think it was, I want to say it was in March, April of 2017, I sent him a mystery beer mail where basically was all blind beer reviews, and he reviewed Yuengling Lager blind. And in that review, he talked about how it was coming off as an American Wild Ale. He was getting a funkiness, a slight sour tinge, so on and so forth. And during the Narragansett review, he kept on saying how much this was better than Yuengling because Yuengling had faults. But anyway, I found it pretty funny because we still give him shit to this day. A lot of the Canadian beer tubers and anybody who's friends with Paul's, we always talk about how Yuengling is American Wild Ale, and that's kind of where it came from. Not kind of, that's where it came from. And he still to this day references that beer when he's drinking an adjunct lager because he still says that has a lot of faults, and hey, maybe it does. I don't know. I've never drank Yuengling at room temperature. But anyway, I want to give a shout out to Paul because he did review this live and he inspired me to drink it. So full disclosure, I've had this beer before a couple times, but I've never had it in this setting where you're sitting down reviewing it. So I thought I'd give it a proper review, and here we go. So this is an American Adjunct Lager, comes in at 5% alcohol by volume and 12 IBUs according to their website. Also on the website, they talk about how this uses 6-row malt, a secret blend of Pacific Northwest hops, and corn from Iowa. I could talk about the history and whatnot of this beer, but there's other beer tubers that do a way better job at that. Also, I don't really care to because with the story time, this is going to be a long review anyway. So yeah, you can go to their website. The whole all the information is there about their whole history, and they have a pretty extensive history. This beer, though, was brewed at the Genesee Brewing Company because that's where they contract brew this beer. Although they did reopen a new brewery in Pawtucket, Rhode Island in the spring of 2017. I don't know if this beer is actually brewed there. I think it's more of their like crafty beers. So this one was the Rochester Brewing Company location, which I've been to before, but I was really unaware that they brewed it there. So yeah, anyway, let's crack into it, see what we got going on. I couldn't really specify the date on this can, but if I'm correct, I think this was canned in late May, so a couple months old, a little bit over a couple months old. Let's give it a pour here. Now, I'm not drinking this room temperature like Paul because I'm not an idiot. No, I'm just kidding. I'm not drinking at room temperature because I just grabbed it out of the fridge, and I figured, we'll give, it's been out of the fridge for like 20, 25 minutes, so it's probably like 45, 50 degrees, nothing crazy. But yeah, I'm not drinking it ice cold, but I'm also not drinking it room temperature. So this pours out like all your American Adjunct Lagers is, bright golden straw color, finger and a half of a bright white head. Actually, the head looks quite creamy. Looks like an American Adjunct Lager. It does. So anyway, let's get a nose on it. Actually doesn't smell all that bad. I know that sounds bad, right? I don't have a bias towards American Adjunct Lagers. I just don't like the style. So I guess maybe I do have a bias. But, for those of you who like American Adjunct Lagers, drink them up. I do like some of them. Others I don't. But when I say this doesn't smell bad, there are a lot of Adjunct Lagers that are offensive to me personally. Maybe not others out there. This one doesn't have an offensive aroma. Actually getting a nice like sweet malt character, little bit of a corn sensation in the nose, not too much. A lot of these will come off like sweet cream corn and very corny. This one doesn't. There's actually a bit of bitterness too in the nose. It's not all sweet malt and corn. Yeah, it's like a little zesty lemon thing going on. Maybe my mind is playing tricks on me. Maybe I should have done this blind. But anyway, yeah, it doesn't smell too bad. It smells actually quite refreshing. So let's get into it. Cheers. Hey, that's pretty good. I actually surprised like never had before. One of the reasons why I don't mind this beer and why I've had it before and I really haven't thought too much about it is that every time I drink it, it's just, hey, it's a refreshing beer. Yeah, right up front, sweeter malt character, as it passes through the palate, more of like a graininess comes out. On the finish, there's this ever so slight hint of corn, but it's not overbearing. It's not like a lot of American Adjunct lagers where, you know, you're getting a lot of sweet corn. It's just, there's a hint of it. It's very nice. Has a slight bitterness to it as well. The mouthfeel and body's like light bodied, higher side of light bodied, very crisp, clean, refreshing, no lingering flavors at all. This might be actually a little bit less carbonated than most adjunct lagers, which I like. There's almost like this slight creaminess to it. The body actually reminds me of Genesee Cream Ale in a lot of respects. But, I mean, there's not a lot to say about this. The best thing for me personally, again, this is ultimate to my personal opinion, this is a well-made, good American adjunct lager. I don't really go nuts for the style. I obviously don't really care for the style too much. I do like some within the style. But for an American adjunct lager, this is well-made. Like I said, sweet malt, a bit of graininess, a slight hint of corn, a decent bitterness, well, light bitterness, but enough to kind of offset the sweetness in the front. Crispy cream. I could go for some Krispy Kremes. I'm on this diet. Crisp, clean, and refreshing. Proper body and mouthfeel. Little bit of creaminess there, softness to the body as well, and to the mouthfeel. It's well made. I'm gonna say this for rating. If I was to rate the style, which I don't, but a lot of times I do this, especially if I don't like a style, I will review it to the style. I would give this like a 4.25, 4.5 out of 5 for an American Adjunct Lager. Personal opinion, straight, flat, 3 out of 5 for me, which is actually saying a lot. Genesee Cream Ale is like one of my favorite like macro beers. I know it's not technically an American Adjunct Lager, but that gets like a 3.25 for me, sometimes a 3.5 depending on my mood. So this is right behind it. This is probably like my second favorite macro beer, and it's maybe my favorite American Adjunct Lager, period. At the same time, you know, it's nothing crazy, but if you like adjunct lagers and you haven't had this and you can get it, try it. I think it was $5.99 a 6-pack. I mean, it's $1 a can. You can't really beat that. So that was Narragansett Lager from the Narragansett Brewing Company out of Pawtucket, Rhode Island. 3 out of 5 for personal score, 4.25, 4.5 out of 5 for the style. So appreciate you guys stopping by. Please like, comment, and subscribe. And to the next one, cheers.